You can't tell me that receiving a wage that only allows you to feed yourself and your family is better than living in a society where you, as a black person, can hold positions of power, run businesses that are worth billions, have high quality, high standard jobs like being a doctor, an engineer, a scientist, whatever that you want to become. You can't tell me that that thing is outweighed by just working on a farm and receiving a wage that can only feed you and your family. No, no. The gap that is between the rich and the poor in South Africa has been a concern for many years now. The whites, who are the minority in this country, control most of the wealth, and again, they control most of the land. This has left many black people in poverty and destitution. A lot of black people can barely provide for themselves in this country, and njengoba sibona vele the rate of unemployment is at an all-time high. Because of all this, many people are even feeling nostalgic of the apartheid times. Many people believe that black South Africans were doing much better during the apartheid times compared to today, even though we are free and we are no longer oppressed. But when it comes to economics, when it comes to lifestyle, black people are doing much worse compared to the apartheid times. Now, let's talk about this and try to unpack whether this claim is justified or is just a false and even stupid claim. My name is Emmanuel and welcome to Mzansi Versity, the place where we transform lives through knowledge and information. The people I often hear say that black people were doing much better during the apartheid times compared to today are ironically all the black people who had a taste of apartheid in some form or another. This is ironic to me because these are the very people you would expect to hate apartheid with every fiber of their being because they were there, they experienced it firsthand. But no, mostly these are the people who always utter these words. The thinking process behind this claim does have some sense to it. To my understanding, when people say that black people were doing much better during the apartheid times compared to today, they are speaking in terms of employment and not the standard of living. We all know that during the apartheid times, the economy was much stronger compared to today, and most black people were employed. Even though the white minority was abusing and oppressing our black parents, but when it comes to employment, there was always work for the black man. The only people or the only blacks who didn't have jobs were those woke ones who didn't want to work for the enemy. So, in a way, there is some sense to this claim yokuthi black people were doing much better during the apartheid times compared to today. But don't misunderstand me, because I don't agree with this claim. I am just outlining ukuthi there is a sense with regards to employment, because it was very easy to find a job back then. Njengoba ngisho ngithi everyone had a job. The only people who didn't have jobs are those maybe who were disabled, who didn't have the capability to work, or the woke ones who just didn't want to work for the enemy. But if you are a random black man and you wanted a job, it wouldn't take you a month to get a job, even though it was not a high quality job, but it was the kind of job that allowed you to feed yourself and your family, not the kind of job that was going to make you rich or allow you to become middle class, because you were obviously going to become a threat to the white minority, so they wouldn't allow that. So the jobs that they were giving our black people were jobs that allowed them ukuthi nje baphile, yabo, baphile nje, so that they cannot die of hunger, but not high quality jobs. Personally, I think this claim is total bull. And the people who always say that black people were doing much better during the apartheid times compared to today are clearly living under a big rock of delusion. Black people are doing much better today compared to the apartheid times. You can't tell me that receiving a wage that only allows you to feed yourself and your family is better than living in a society where you as a black person can hold positions of power, run businesses that are worth billions, have high quality, high standard jobs like being a doctor, an engineer, a scientist, whatever that you want to become. You can't tell me that that thing is outweighed by just working on a farm and receiving a wage that can only feed you and your family. No. Well, yes, ang pigi, a lot of black people today are living in poverty. But have you heard of the stories of black people who are able to take themselves out of poverty and become great? Or do we choose to neglect those stories and just focus on the ones that are still stuck in poverty? What about the ones that are able to grab the opportunities that we have today as black people and take themselves out of poverty? Why do we only focus on the ones that are still stuck in poverty? Personally, I am drawn to these kinds of stories because they represent the opportunities that we have today, opportunities that were non-existent in the apartheid times. Atike ngibuze la fast. Have you seen the kinds of cars that black people drive today? Have you seen the houses that black people live in today? Have you seen the types of jobs that black people work today? Have you seen the businesses that black people run today? These are just a few of the many things that black people are doing. And bear in mind that these are all things that black people were not allowed to do during the apartheid times. In just 3 decades, black people have managed to achieve all this in this country and are still achieving even more. This is rather impressive if you ask me. And the people who don't see the progress that we have made, the progress that we are still making as black people in this country, are the people who choose to neglect and ignore the positive aspects of us black people and only choose to indulge in the negative aspects of black people. It's not only the opportunities that we have today as black people, but also the overall quality of life. Black people today are living much better because we are free. We don't have to be constantly looking over our shoulders. Are the Boer coming to arrest us? Are the Boer coming to beat us? Are the Boer coming to chase us away? Those kinds of things. That level of freedom, yoguti, you as a black person, you can do whatever you want with your life. Ngesikhathi ofuna ngaso, ngendlela ofuna ngayo. That level of freedom should be argument enough ukuthi black people are doing much better today compared to the apartheid times. Well, honestly speaking, if you can look at it, us as black people today, we have all the opportunities that other races have. What the whites can have, you can also have as a black person. The people who are stuck in poverty today, it's not that the opportunities are not there for them to take themselves out of poverty, because honestly, the opportunities are there. Well, there are some people who are stuck in poverty and can't do anything about it. But it's only a few. The exception does not and will not make the rule. But for most black people, it's their lack of focus and dedication that is keeping them in poverty. They can do something about it, but they choose to not do anything. Some of them can go to school, but they choose to not go to school. Some of them can go out there and look for jobs, but they don't choose to do that. These are just a few examples of some people are in poverty and they can do something about it, but they are not doing anything. Yabo? So, black people today have the opportunities to make something of themselves. And we shouldn't look at the ones who are in poverty today and say, no man, the rate of unemployment is too high, siyalamba, bekungcono lokho nge-apartheid because besisebenza imisebenzi enjani? Imisebenzi enjani? Umsebenzi wokuthi unga-improve as a person. That's not something to flex about. I strongly disagree with this claim. And I think that the people who always say this are just disconnected from reality, and they want to use this as a way to justify their lack of focus and dedication towards meaningful goals. There was nothing better that Black South Africa had during the apartheid times that Black South Africa can't have today. And let's stop making it seem as if apartheid was good for Black people in some way, because it was not. Many people fought and died for the liberation of Black people in this country. And to come back and say that Black people were doing much better during the apartheid times compared to today is just spitting on their graves. And let us not do that. Please, let's not do that. Let us acknowledge and notice the progress that we have made as a country so far, especially as Black people, and try to do more. Try to make sure ukuthi we only improve going forward. Not this thing of looking back at the apartheid times and try to uzama indlela of painting the apartheid times in a good way. No, let us not do that. Apartheid was not good for Black people, and let us not sizama ukuthola indlela ukuthi but lana beyi right la. Apartheid was not good, and this thing of trying to paint it in a good light is not a good thing, because njengoba ngishilo ukuthi it's just spitting on the graves of those who liberated this nation. My name is Emmanuel. Thank you for joining me today. Let's meet again on another video.